Business Talk with JL Holdsworth on PowerNorth.ca starting now.
Work at the same gym.
Same chain, different locations though.
A lot of different locations.
Just the way it kind of worked out.
It kind of fell into place, yeah.
The gym, so I started training at the shithole gym. It wasn't too bad because
Is that what it's called? Because that would be sweet.
Yeah, good bit of fitness on Stranded. Here, I'll keep that. And then Shannon came over there and she started training there too. It is a shithole gym, but it was good because they let us do what I want. We're not going to touch you. We put fucking straps around the warning tape. You guys, we'll keep the people that are paying the money out.
Yeah. For a commercial gym, like they let us use chains and chalk and
bring in
specialty bars.
Tim Walsh, a friend of ours, he actually he was the manager at the time when I started, and we've all at one point, and I think those guys still do right now, have lived with him. he's one of those guys. Hey, I got a room if you want to rent it. Right. Sure. So like it's like, okay, this is what we're doing. He's dropped so much money buying like bars and Swiss bars, safety bar, all that shit. So then, Shannon came over there, and then Jack started there. And then after a while, I left because I got sick of that. I suck at selling, so if you can't sell, you can't be a personal trainer. That's a note. As much as people want to say keep it about the thing, if you can't sell, you can't have a business or be in business. And then Shannon got pregnant, had a baby, so she left and she went to a different gym because there was a brand new opening one. And when the big corporate gyms have a new opening, it's like a license to print money because everyone's like, ooh, shiny stuff, I'll give you money.
Right.
So she went there, and then Aneta was actually in sales. She was on the sales end of the gym market, but she was hanging out with us all the time and going to meets and stuff. And then she's like, wait a minute, I'm fucking smarter than all of these trainers combined. I should probably start training people too and making way more money than what I'm doing now, doing the actual hard part of the training. So then it happened that it worked out at the gym that had the best opportunity for business was a different one than the one that Jack was at. So now all three of them work for the same company about 20 minutes away from each other. And
the three different locations in the one town.
Yeah. But like where Shannon's at, there's 2 on that street and 1 2 blocks over. Like they're everywhere.
Mine's just the nicest though.
Yeah, hers
because you're there.
Yeah, that adds to it.
Yeah,
It was if you want some more pizza, it's the other side. But fucking tearing. It worked out well because hers is brand new, all new, fancy new stuff, and there's 2 other gyms really close to it that everyone came because it was a new shiny thing, but they're like, that one's like 10 minutes closer to home. I'm just gonna go to that one. So after that, like 3-4 months of the initial rush, it calmed down. So now there's all this new equipment, and there's not very many people there. It's not usually that busy. It's really good. I like training there. Mm-hmm. All right, so everyone, this is round 2 with JL Holdsworth on PowerNorth.ca. Here with Jack, Aneta, Shannon, and of course JL. This time we're going to go through a little bit different aspect. We're going to go into the business aspect. I've worked personally with JL on his with some stuff in his business before. He's turned personal training and the whole lifestyle aspect into a very successful business, and it's not easy at all. So if this is something you want to do, JL is going to be able to give you a little bit of guidance on some of the shit you have to deal with, including, as he mentioned, the 100-hour work weeks that you get the joy of working. So JL, can you give us a little bit a solid explanation of the Spot Athletics?
So the Spot Athletics is a training facility in Columbus, Ohio, and we've got about 8,000 square feet now. The Spot Athletics is really about training everyone like an athlete. So whether we're dealing with an 8-year-old or a 70-year-old, 3 things are going to be true. We want that person to move well, feel good, and be functionally strong for whatever tasks that they need to do. So if they're trying to, win the Olympics, then we're going to be strong enough to do that. If we want to, garden without back pain, then we're going to be strong enough to do that. So training everyone like an athlete is a mentality as well. So we get, general population, housewives, things like that. They're going to deadlift, they're going to squat, so there's all those things. They're going to carry, push, pull, all the press, all the stuff that we need to do. So with the Spot Athletics, it started, we started 4 years ago. And then last year we moved into the larger location. We started with about 3,000 square feet. And then last year we moved into the larger location. So, I think that location is, it's about the right size for what we want to do in our business model.
That's awesome. So, 4 years ago, what was the switch that got flipped with you that decided that, okay, this is where I'm going to go. This is where I'm going to sink my life's effort into?
Kind of a culmination of things. The company that I worked for, I kind of mentioned before, so I took over a job that Dave Tate had, and then I was there for a while, and my title was athletic director, so I was in charge of I was the manager for all the athletics, so hiring, firing, all that good stuff, operations, and so the management company had changed. There was a big national management company that was running it, and they were great. That's what they did was clubs, and they had like a national athletic director and HR. And it was great. It was a great company. That company, the owner of the company passed away, and part of his will stuff was like he was giving $500 million to charity or some crazy number, and so they had to sold the company. So when he passed away, so they did some restructuring. A new management company came in that had no clue about anything to do with fitness. They were a hotel company, and they were awful to work for. It was awful. There was, I don't wish ill will on anybody, but let's just say that person got cancer. I wasn't sad. And so, they were just awful people. They tried to get me fired. Basically what happened was they came in day one, and they basically said, you're a big dumb meathead, and we don't think you know anything about running a business. And so they started having these ideas, and we're going to do this. And I was like, that's an awful idea. We're going to lose money. They did it anyway, and they lost money. Then, so they did a couple of these ideas where I said, these are really bad ideas, and they lost money. So then they started to really hate me, because all of a sudden their whole you're a big dumb meathead thing didn't pan out so well for them. And so it even got to the point where the head of their HR told me that I couldn't do my job because of the way I looked, because I was intimidating to some people. And I looked at her and I go, so if I was black, I couldn't do this job because I would be okay for me to be black? Well, that's not what I'm saying. It's totally different. I go, well, no, you're saying the way I look impacts my performance or my intelligence. I was like, you can't say that to somebody. And they're, well, no, but that's not what we were trying to say. I'm like, no, that's exactly what you're saying. If I was black or a woman, I would be leaving and suing you right now. But because I am a big dumb meathead, I can't. So, it's just that's who they were. So really just dealing with those awful people spurred me to start my own company and start my own facility because, so it's one of those things where people, they complain about the bad things in their life, but I think every bad thing that's happened to me has led me to something better. So,
turning adversity into success.
Yeah.
So what was your initial business plan for the Spot?
So my initial business plan for the Spot was, it was the thing when I sat down with Dave with my business plan, Dave gave me some great advice, which I give to anybody who's trying to start a business. Take your revenues that you think you're going to make, cut them in half, and then up your expenses by 25%. And if you still have a profitable business, then you probably have a decent plan. And so that's kind of what I did. And I was like, well, these numbers kind of work. And so, my business plan was based off of all training. So we had no memberships. We still don't. We never will. I don't want to deal with membership people. Because the nice part is it's a private facility. So we maintain a culture at the Spot. We have what we call our tryout process. And so when people come in, they have a month tryout. And so what's nice about that is we tell them, this might not be a good fit for you. It's not for everybody. And so, it allows us to weed people out who aren't going to fit in our culture. Basically, at the end of the day, it's not a skill thing or a strength thing by any stretch of the imagination. It's people, a ton of people never touched a bar before in their life, but they want to work hard, they want to get better, like positive attitudes. That's what the tryout's about. And we get people that are negative, and then we just give them their money back for that first month and say, this is not the right fit for you. And so it allows us to keep a much better culture, and it keeps the people that we want. So
that's a ballsy plan of attack, because I know a lot of people that start businesses, it's really hard for them to say no to money, because it doesn't matter if a guy's a giant dickwad. You'd be like, oh, he's still going to pay me $120 a month, so I'll keep that dickwad around for that $120. So it takes a lot of like mental fortitude to stick to your guns and to keep that. That's
well,
awesome.
The nice part, so like when we first started, I mean, the nature of what our facility was, like, we didn't get a lot of people that fell into that category. And so the nice part was, like, you know, when we first started, so like we didn't have to do what we do now, because we didn't have like really as much of, like, you know, we have like small group training that we do. And so in those, like, it's like 6 people and 1 coach, we have to have people that have the right culture in mind. Otherwise they'll ruin that group, and then one bad person loses us 5 people. So when we first started, we didn't need to do as much of that, because we didn't have as big of a group component as that we have now. So at that point, when it was personal training, like, you know, I had people that worked for me. So if like they, you know, they worked with someone, you know, but I always tell my people, like, it's always better to fire a client than get fired. And so, you know, we didn't have that process when we first started. And quite honestly, like, you know, our models changed a bit over the 4 years. But I think that, you know, when you start, I think, yes, it is hard to turn money away, but I think at the end of the day, if you turn one bad person away, it's going to make you so much more money, because yes, you give me the $120 a month, but I tell you what, like, 3 people are going to come in and be like, that guy's a douche, I don't want to be around him. And then you're going to lose, you're going to lose $300 a month because you have one douche that you let in the door. And so it is tough when you're first starting and you need that money. And I think the one thing I will say about that is, like, I hear a lot of people say, like, oh, we never make deals or cut deals for anybody and don't discount what you do and blah, 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 this and that. I get that, but everybody who says that has been doing it for like 20 years. And so they have money or they have this or that. I'm just going to tell you, like, when I started my business, I had 2 kids. I was the primary breadwinner. I quit my job, and I still had to pay my bills and support my kids and do that. So did I cut deals with people? Fucking right I did. Because, like, I wasn't going to pay rent, or I wasn't going to be able to pay the bills, or, you know what I mean? Like, so I did what I had to do to make the business work. But the one thing I didn't want to move on is the culture of the people we wanted there. So, you know, maybe like somebody comes in and maybe they can't pay that $200 a month but it's the right kind of person. Say, okay, well, can you, you know, like, okay, 200 is steep, but like, can you do 150? Like, and so at first I did have to do a lot of that with stuff, like, you know, and because I needed to get that. And, you know, not that like I would just offer someone a deal, but if it was the right person, or especially the right athletes, like, that's one for me. Like, we don't cut, like, adults in general. We don't really cut a lot of deals with adults at all. But, like, we'll get, like, kids in that, like, you know, it's like, well, not, like, I didn't have any money for training or anything. So, like, you know, a kid comes in, he's, like, a really good athlete at whatever sport, and his parents are like, hey, we can't really afford to do this, but, you know, can we do it for a month? They'll be like, well, what could you guys afford if, like, you could do it for 6 months, you know? And so those are things, like, that's not about discounting your service. That's just giving back to people who deserve it. Like,
that's exactly,
you know
what
I mean? Like,
that was you at one point. You were that someone took you under your wing and said,
yeah,
give your chance to help a kid out in the same shoes that you were in.
And so we've had kids that, like, couldn't maybe necessarily afford training, and then we train them and they get college scholarships, and then their parents couldn't afford to send us, you know, couldn't pay. And, you know, so it's like great. Like, those parents will stop back in and just be like, hey, like, this is how they're doing, and you know what I mean? Because they're appreciative that, like, but it's because it's good kids, they're good parents, like, good families, like, you know, yes sir, no sir. I mean, we're not going to do that for some dickhead or, like, you know what I mean, like an entitlement kid. Like, no, like, it's, you know, so that's one thing, like, I think some of that stuff when you're starting, you got to cut some deals and do some things. But and people who say you don't, they for sure weren't like, hey, I'm gonna lose my house.
Yeah.
Because like literally, like when I started, like I made a mistake, like in not in my business plan per se, but just I didn't understand some of the nature of stuff I was doing when I started. So I got.
Let's actually.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to interrupt you there, but let's go back to that time when you were starting. What did you have? Let's if you don't mind looking at the financials, what did you start with for the business?
So like for me, like I mean, I don't have any family to give me money or do anything like that. So it's just like, okay, like I had a little bit of money saved up, and then I had some clients that believed in me. And so I went to my clients, two of my clients, I went to them and said, hey, I want to start my own deal. And, this is what I think I need money-wise to start it. And basically, people I had trained for a really long time. And they both said, we really believe in what you do, so we'll give you the money you need to start. And that's kind of how it was. I mean, it was basically one of those things where, you could have gone, there's a lot of ways you can do it. I just was very fortunate that I had people that I built great relationships with. And I handed both of them my business plan. I was 2 different meetings, but they went the same. Both of them grabbed my business plan, set it to the side, and said, whatever money you need to start this, we'll give it to you. And now let's look at your business plan and see if it makes sense. And so, I was fortunate, but I think with that, it's the same thing. You treat people right and you do good by them. I think it comes back around.
What were the first year or so? What was the day in the life of JL in those first year or two?
I mean, it was everything. So my one dude, Matt Bernauskis, he's been with me since the beginning, and like literally I signed my lease. I think I bought some used stuff. I bought some stuff from Dave that they had at the compound. They were like changing out some stuff and some other used stuff, and moved it in. But like all of our new like racks and stuff that I ordered from Elite, like they hadn't come in yet. Like I literally the place wasn't. I just signed my lease. Like it was just, and so I got a phone call from this place, a little personal training studio place, and it was for a reference for Matt. He had interned me when I was at the other place I was running, and just a good, hardworking guy, like smart. And he was supposed to go to PD school. They call me for a thing, so I call Matt up. I go, dude, what happened to PT school? He's like, I started, it just wasn't for me. I'm gonna be in Columbus personal training. I said, well, hey, come over to this place. I'm gonna text you an address. I just signed the lease. I'm starting my place. So he comes in. I tell him what we're doing, what the plan is, and I basically was like, look, dude, I was like, I can't offer you any amount of money. I was like, I can't even guarantee we're going to be in business in a year. I was like, all I can guarantee you is that you will learn more here and you'll have more opportunity than anywhere else. And like literally didn't skip. He goes, I'm in. And he was like, he's like, I know you. He goes, this will work. I'm in. And so, like, Matt helped me paint. Like, he helped me put the racks together. I mean, like, but that's how I paid him at first, because, like, we had, like, a couple clients that I brought over and stuff. But you didn't have any clients, so, like, the money I paid him was, like, paint the walls. And, like, like, all right, racks arrived. Let's put the racks together. Like, and that's what he did. And so he's been with me the whole time. But, like, at first year, man, it was, like, every single day just grinding. Like, and it was... it was 7 days a week. It was everything, and we were inside a volleyball facility, so we had volleyball stuff like players that we trained like all day on Sunday. It was just me and Matt, and so like it was just Matt and I grinding like every single day, and trying to build a website and get all the freaking try to do any kind of marketing we could, and like anything you can do, accounting, marketing, branding, IT, like maintenance, like. Everything, we did it all, and we started. I felt like we were fairly successful, and then I didn't understand the ebb and flow of like training athletes and how the seasons, how everything works, and so we got around about to the end of my first year, and it was about 3 months where I didn't get a check, and so I started to have to draw into like my home equity for my house. You gotta have savings, so like. Be like, oh, like savings. It's like, all right, we got $400 in the bank. That's what we got. So then I had to start drawing into my home equity line. And so I got about $10,000 into my home equity line. And then, like, our busy season hit again. And so then, like, I was able to, like, pay it back. And I was like, okay, I cannot do that again. Because I had, like, 20 grand in my home equity line. And I'm like, okay, like, I just not wasted. I mean, in order to pay bills and do everything I needed to do, like, I had to draw out of it. Or, like, you know, or you lose your house or don't get groceries or whatever. So, you know, it's funny, like, at this point, like, you know, now, like, looking at, like, you know, so, like, I don't know, I looked at my numbers last month. So, like, my payroll for this year already is, like, over $100,000. And so, like, I'm looking at that and I'm, like, thinking back to, like, okay, like, I had, like, drawn on my home equity in year one because, like, we're about to go out of business. And now, like, I have this big pay, and not that, like, that's a huge pay. I mean, people have billions of dollars in payroll, but like, but just when you're looking at the scheme of things, you're like, geez, like, now all these people, I'm paying all this money for people to do all this stuff. And so it's, you know, I mean, people don't see that though. They don't see, like, the struggle and, like, okay, I could just quit, or, like, hey, like, I've worked for 120 hours this week. People don't see, like, I've got 4 hours sleep every day. Like, people don't see that stuff. They only see it, like, at the end when it's built, and, like, you know what I mean? And so
They're like, oh, that's fancy.
yeah, oh, that's nice. I want to do that.
Yeah.
Well,
I want to jump right to the paycheck you're getting now and start there.
yeah, but
That must be nice to have his own place.
yeah, it's fucking awesome. You know, but and that's the thing, and that's where, you know, everybody. It's funny. Like, I feel like, I don't want to say, like, people pose, but they do. Like, everyone wants to talk about how successful they are, right? Like, I make this much money and I'm this successful, but, like, people don't talk about the failure. Like, okay, so I had this fucking awesome idea when I started. I still think it's a great idea. It failed, but I still think it was a great idea. It was just, we were inside a volleyball facility, so it didn't work because it clashed with, like, kind of the branding we were trying to do. So I came up with this idea for MILF boot camp. So moms in love with fitness. So we had the logo, we had milfbootcamps.com, we had everything, right? And so, like, I trademarked the MILF boot camp thing. I did all this stuff. I'm like, this is great. But, like, I had this whole, like, brand and image and all this stuff. And then at the Spot Athletics, the MILF boot camp was just something that the Spot Athletics did by itself, like, in a standalone. Like, I would have conversations with moms, like every other day. Like, mom would come and be like, my daughter knows what that means. And I'd be like, because we had these huge banners that said MILF boot camp, you know? And so, like, so there's just, like, you know, hundreds of volleyball players, and it's, like, mostly, like, you know, 12 to 17-year-old girls. And so, like, the moms, like, a lot of the moms would be like, I know, my daughter knows what that means. I was like, mom's in love with fitness. No, she knows what that, and I was like, you have a problem with your daughter thinking that you like fitness? And she'd be like, my daughter knows what that really means. And I was like, well, if your daughter's getting some improper messaging from somewhere else, I suggest you really edit that. And she'd be like, no, she knows. And I was like, well, it sounds like she's getting some really improper messages from some other sources. I was like, that ain't good. You should probably get your daughter under control. And, like, and so but there's something like that. Like, that cost me, like, a good bit of money to, like, go through all that stuff. And, you know, it just failed miserably. But like, you know, it's one of those things you learn, like, okay, this might be a good idea if it was on its own, but under the Spot Athletics, it was not a good idea.
That's funny.
So, but yeah, so that's I mean, that's where we started, man. It's a struggle, you know, and, you know, I don't know, like,
if you could go back to JL, let's say 2 months in, and just give him one piece of advice, be like, this is something that you're, in 3 years, you're really going to want this to be done.
So I think, like, one, understanding how to convey your message. So, like, that's one of the things that I struggled with probably the most, was getting to a point to say, like, who is a Spot Athlete? What do they do? Well, we're a training facility. We train everyone like athletes, which means they're going to move well, feel good, and be functionally strong. It took me the longest time to get to there, right? Like, 3 years ago or 4 years ago, if you asked me at the Spot Athletics, I was like, well, we train athletes, and then we train, like, general population. Like, So like trying to like get the brand like into like a succinct like 1 or 2 sentence, and like those things, that was probably took the longest and was probably one of the hardest things for me to do, is to figure out how to like get our brand to something that was succinct, that like we could give our clients messages that they could go out and tell their friends, and so that everyone could understand what it is, because it's not like saying like like the gym that you work at, like everybody, it's a big chain, right? Like so like you're like, oh, I work at, hey, they understand what it is, they they understand what they're getting. When you're starting your own facility, like people don't know who you are, they don't know what you're about, they don't know what you do, like. And so even though it falls under that fitness kind of like, health guideline, like it's something that they have no recollection, they have no identity for. So building that brand, it's harder than people think, like, and, getting the messaging so it's succinct, it's really hard. And the demographic things is another thing, like the location, I mean, people say it, and who hadn't heard it 1,000 times, right? Location is the most important thing. It is, but like literally, no, it fucking is. Like, like people don't understand. Like, so at our old location, and it's not just geographical; it's also the physical plant. So like, our old geographical location was closer to like, there's a suburb that's like it's a very wealthy suburb. And it's right by Columbus. And our old location was actually a mile closer to that suburb, or so like it's not that much difference, like where it is. Like some places, like if you're in New York, a mile is like, you know what I mean? That's just a different world. But like in Columbus, mile's not that big of a deal. And so, but like it's actually geographically closer. Where we are now, though, we've captured like basically like all those people we couldn't capture before, because like it's a lot of like very well-to-do, like a country club where if you join the golf portion, it's like $75,000. Like, I mean, it's very like, people, like really good business people and entrepreneurs, and a lot of old money. And the problem was like our geographical location was close to that, but our physical plant, like because we were kind of beholden to the facility we were inside of, like they didn't keep the bathrooms clean, and like, just simple stuff like that. Now, like, we captured a ton of those people, because you walk into our facility and the physical plant's like, this is fucking cool. It's clean. It's well lit. You know what I mean? Like, those things that, like, when I first started, I was just like, I mean, at the end of the day, we have the same we have more equipment now, obviously, but, like, we have squat racks and dumbbells and barbell. I mean, everybody's got the same shit, but, like, that physical plant having, like, really clean restrooms and things well lit and, like, all those things, like, and like now we have like, just it's a much cooler looking space. That shit matters. Like, it doesn't matter how good the training is if people like, because people don't know good squats and bad squats, but they know a dirty bathroom. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, and that's what I always tell my people is like, people don't know good and bad training. They just know, but they know clean. Everybody knows clean and dirty. Yeah. And so like stuff like that is like, the physical plan, I didn't understand how important that was. I was kind of, I don't want to say naive. I was like, well, our training's awesome. No one's as good as us at doing the training side of it, so that's all that should matter. But it's not.
It's going to sell itself.
Yeah, it doesn't.
Famous last words.
It does not sell itself. Nothing sells itself. No. Except for sex.
Speaking of, not speaking of sex.
Speaking of sex, well, Jack's turn for the show.
Yeah. Speaking of the good training, though, not really any secret that in most of the bigger chains, the commercial gyms, the quality of training that's delivered isn't the highest.
It sucks.
It's terrible. So what are some of the things you do at the spot now that your team has grown from being just you and Matt? When you bring new people on board, what do you do to make sure the standard of service is where you'd like it to be?
So we have a huge education portion. So this is, I think, a big thing. I don't know if we definitely talk about it a lot, but I think that almost people have to experience it to know how much of a difference it makes. But like, so first thing, like no one can start working for us. They have to start in an internship program. So like if someone like, let's say Shane moves to Columbus and he's like, oh, I want to train for you guys. Great, you can. You still have to start in a professional internship program. So the professional internship program basically means like you can kind of start getting paid right away. but there's a bunch of stuff you're not going to get paid for that you have to do from an educational standpoint, and we just require, like, you got to learn this shit. And so that's come in. They have to do, like, shadowing hours. They have to, well, one of the things that everybody does, and this is part of the deal, but you have to train with the staff. So we do, we shut down from 11 to 1 during the day, and our staff trains. So every one of our staff members is required to compete in something. So I don't dictate what they compete in. I want everybody to do a strength sport oriented competition at least once, but I don't require it. So, like, I have a coach now. He started with us. He played college baseball. Like, he's gonna, like, he's done, like, some different, like, power acts, which is, like, kind of a smaller little thing. But so he hasn't done a powerlifting. He wants to eventually, but, like, he did, like, a physique competition, like, just something. Like, I need doing something. I got, like, Matt ran, like, this Ragnar race this year. Like, it's a goal setting thing. Yeah, right? They got to have something to be trained. I want him to have skin in the game, and so I want everybody who works for me to know what it's like to set a plan, train for a competition, and get up there and put your balls on the line. Because at the end of the day, for our athletes, that's what they're doing. Like, they're gonna go. Like, we have. So I get a guy who's one of the top jiu-jitsu black belts in the world. And so, we built him up. He took second in the world this year. And, like, our goal is obviously to win a world championship next year. And if our training's not good, then he doesn't win a world championship. Or, obviously he's got to take care of the technical side. There's a lot to it. But, you know what I mean? Like, if our training's not where it's not, then now we don't prepare him for our side of it. And so, like, I want, and even the general population, people at the end of the day, like, obviously Gen Pop's, like, about, obviously everyone just wants to look good naked. It's just kind of the deal, even the
speaking of sex.
Yeah, right. But even then, like, they're putting something online. It's their time, their energy, their money. Like, they're putting something on the line too. So I want all my people to put something on the line so they know, like, it's not just about, like, coming in here and collecting a check. Like, you have to make a change in people's lives. And so they're required to compete in something. They have to go through our internship process. We have weekly staff education. So every Friday we have our strength staff meeting where we cover different things. So it just varies based on what we're doing. And then we have, like, a full staff on Wednesday where we do a lot of, like, procedural and that kind of stuff. But then usually, like, the last, like, bit of that, we'll go over, like, things we're seeing. And then also my guy, like, Matt is my program director. So Matt has certain times during the day when he has he's scheduled to have no clients. He's just on the floor making sure the coaches are running the programs the way we want. And so we do a lot of things to ensure that as we grow with good, solid people. And plus our interview process, I mean, you have to lift with us. So we do, like, an interview, like, even, like, with Shane, right? Like, obviously I know Shane, but like, you'd be like, hey, okay, so Jack, I've never trained with you. So, like, if you, like, were gonna randomly move to Columbus, then, like, we'd do, like, a phone interview or whatever. Then you'd have to come to Columbus and train with the whole staff before I would say, okay, then we can hire you. So, we had a girl one time. I mean, she flew in from LA and we're like, well, I can't hire you. Like, talk to you on the phone, it's great, and I got some good references, but you need to fly here and train with us before I can say you can work here. So we do a lot of things like that just, at the end of the day, if people aren't passionate about doing this and they don't want to be good, they're not going to go through all the stuff that we require. So that weeds more people out than anything. And we've had a lot of, like, people come in for internships, and they've been like, oh yeah, maybe I want to do this. And I'd be like, okay, well, you have to train with staff, you have to compete in something, you have to do education, you have to do, and they're like, well, I don't think maybe this is for me. Like,
it's funny because with the commercial gym, I think Shannon was the one that said, like, it's here in Canada, it's probably the same there in the big commercial gyms, but, like, personal trainers becoming the new waiter. It's like, I don't know what I'm going to do with my life. I'm going to become a personal trainer. Yeah. And they come in, they have nothing to do. They spend $150 on a weekend course. I'm a certified personal trainer. And then it's like, what the hell is that good for? And then they go that, and it just weeds it down. And then all the worst case scenario is they're actually decent at sales, and then they have no idea what they're selling, but they're selling the hell out of it. And it's just,
like I've said for a long time, man, you got a nice smile and some titties, like, and you're good at sales, you can be the best personal trainer out there.
Yeah.
I mean, they really like. I mean, you know, if a girl's pretty, you know, and like she's got a good personality, like as a knack for sales, I don't know anything about training, but she'll be fucking the #1 trainer at whatever gym she's at. Like, this is the nature of it. It's like how the info stuff is. You know, you look at like fitness products. It's a bunch of people not all of it, but it's a bunch of people who haven't done anything in the field, but they have a set of abs, and so they take some pictures and sell it. And whether it's the girls or the guys, like that's just the nature of the business we're in. So that's what people want, right? So, you know, they're like, I want to look like that. And since you look like that, you must know how to do it. No, actually, God did that. Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and that's what's so funny. Like, people don't understand that. But I think, like, the requirements that we set, it does mean that we grow slower. Yeah. Whereas, like, a box gym, they can just put one up on every corner and put a sign up. You know, like in Columbus, like, one of the box gyms, like, they opened up and they just had like signs like, "Do you want to be a trainer? Like, come do this weekend certification." Like,
you know, that's the thing. They like, because I know from the first-hand knowledge there too. It's like, listen, your club has this many members. You have to have 19 trainers, but we have 12 right now. Well, you better hire 7 by the end of the week.
And it's hire the next 3 people that walk through the door, regardless of and how they interview.
Like, I would see interviews where their interview process would be they would go out of the office and they would look at a dude and be like, "You're kind of big. Do you want a job? Like, what do you do?" "Well, I'm an engineer. I make $180,000 a year. What are you going to offer me?" Like, "Well, you can work for $12 an hour being a personal trainer." Like, nothing.
Sold. Yeah, it's so yeah. I mean, we do a lot from the hiring process that kind of weeds that out, and you know, it means that we're going to grow a little slower, but I think we have a lot of things in place. Like right now, we're looking at a second location, and so we have a lot of things in place from a growth opportunity standpoint. Because I think that's one thing that people forget about too is like, you know, I have great people that work for me, and so you know, we're like a big family, and that's super important to me. Is that, you know, it's a family environment, and it's, you know, it's people all helping each other, and one of that things is I want to see them grow. So like, I want to see Matt run his own Spot Athletics location, and you know what I mean, like, and so like we have a plan in place for that, because I think that's one of the things that gets really short-sighted that I've seen a lot of places do is that you know, the Spot Athletics is, like, okay, I had this idea, like, but it's as much like Matt and Nick and Zach and all the guys who've helped build it, and girls that have helped build it. It's as much like them as it is me. And so like, that's one thing, like, I see people, they build these like training studios, and they're so possessive over it, and they don't have any room for growth for their people. And so you know, someone comes in, and maybe the person who runs that does teach them a lot, but then they get to a point where they're like, okay, I'm as high as I can go, I can't go any higher, and there's no like growth strategy after that. So then what happens is the person that owns that business loses their #1 person because they go open their own place. You know what I mean? And so for me, when I started, that was one of the bad things I saw in this industry is like, you see quality people leave one facility to start another facility, you know, across town, and it's like, I was like, man, like, why not just build in a plan so there's growth for those people as they get to the point where they're ready to do that you can just be, okay, let's make the Spot, because those people understand our culture and they've been with us and helped build it. And so now when I start one across town and they're in charge of it, I know that the culture and the quality of the coaches and everything's going to remain the same over there, and I don't have to worry about it. So that's kind of one of my longer term plans, is building that growth. And so
that was actually leading into my last question was, what do you have like in the pipeline right now? I know you are a thinker, and you like looking ahead at stuff. What's in the pipeline right now for the Spot Athletics?
So the #1 thing right now, I'm in the process of bringing on an operations person. You know, with anything else in owning a business, you make mistakes, and I had hired someone to be a general manager earlier in the year, and I kind of didn't understand what I needed, and I really didn't need a general manager. I needed an operations person, and so so I'm in the process of bringing on an operations person, and we're looking at a second location. For us, I think I've been lucky enough to find some very good business mentors that and so it's funny, like, so the way some of those guys think is different than the way I think. My whole thing, my plan for the spot was never bigger than let's have like a couple locations around Columbus, and Columbus is big enough where you could have 3 or 4 locations, and they would be totally, like, you wouldn't be pulling from different demographics, but the business people that I've been with, they're like, you can build this regionally, and then you can sell it, and someone else can build it nationally, and like, so those aren't things that I've thought about at all. Like, my whole thing is that I never want to be, if the Spot Athletics ever did get to that point, the culture of the Spot Athletics is what's most important to me. And so, there's other franchises out there that have like a training, kind of modality, and they all suck, and their coaches suck, and the people who started them are good. You know what I mean? And that top, like, those people are good, and they had a good thing, but then it just became this big franchising opportunity. And then so the one, that's 1,000 miles away from where the first one was is awful. And so I never want that to be the Spot Athletics. So a lot of those things that we have in place, like, I just think, like, we need to get them perfected at our location now, and before we go to a second location. But that's where we're at now, is trying to perfect all those things so that when we move it to 2 locations, someone's like, yeah, man, that Spot Athletics, in Upper Arlington is awesome, but we went to the one in Dublin and it sucks. Like, and that's the thing I don't want. So really trying
shitters, and the coaches are dicks. And
so
you can be like, he'll turn into like the guy that started Five Guys. I read an article on him, and it was a dude that started Five Guys with his 4 sons, I think it was, and he was just like super stringent. We're doing it this way. This is the only way to do it. And then one of his sons was a business mind. He's like, dude, we need to franchise this. We have a fantastic thing going. He's like, okay, but it has to run exactly like this. So then when they developed their franchise, it became like the most stringent. You have to follow everything like this. And he still travels to Five Guys, and he'll shut them down and be like, no, this is not the standard that you signed a contract saying that you were going to meet. Shut down till you do.
And that's what I think is, I'm not saying like I would ever want to franchise it or anything like that. Like, my goal is like, is basically just, but one of the things that we redid, like, our whole, so if you go to like thespotathletics.com, we redid our whole site. So my whole goal in that redo and the rebranding was to look like a national brand, so that whether we ever get to a point where that's even something we want to do, and I'm not even saying that's something that's not even a plan at all, but like, even if we only ever have one location, that's all and that's fine, too. It does. I mean, that's fine with me as well. But I want a person who's like searching in Columbus, no matter if they go to like a big box place or a franchise place or whatever, when they initially open that web browser and they see ours, they go, this place looks fucking cool. And it looks better than the national place and all those other places. And then once they get into our messaging, obviously, then they're soaked by our messaging. But I think that first initial impression of how that looks is such a huge thing. So that's it.
All right, and that's all we have today. I want to thank JL. Fantastic. He sat down for us for about 2 days here to do a couple episodes. So for Jack, Aneta, Shannon, who is sleeping in the corner, Jack, you have something else?
Be sure to check out what he was just talking about there, thespotathletics.com.
Yeah. As
well as JL's coaching log on Lead FTS, especially if you are interested in the business side of things. In his blog posts, he often does give out tips and advice for people looking to start their own training business.
And again, it's thespotathletics.com.
Yeah, like us on the Facebook and the Twitter. I think we even have a Snapchat. So I've got some things from Shannon. Not saying what. No.
That's awesome. All right.
Just because she's passed out.
Yeah, she's passed out. All right. Thanks, everybody.
All right, guys. I'm going to fucking go to bed.
Yeah, me too.